Tonight's reenactments and commentary may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Prosecutors hit hard on conspiracy charges, and a former Jackson employee testifies that Team Jackson planned to make the accuser's mother look like, quote, a crack whore. Hello and welcome to the Michael Jackson Trial and E! News presentation. I'm James Curtis. With no cameras in that courtroom, we're bringing you reenactments of the trial's key moments, all based on actual courtroom transcripts. On day 3, prosecutors claim that Jackson and his associates were in a panic after journalist Martin Bashir's documentary hit the air. Anne-Marie Kite, a crisis management expert, was hired by Team Jackson to handle the fallout. According to the questions by the prosecution, here's what she had to say.
The question was between late January and the time that you were actually hired. I believed you said it was the 9th of February. Did something happen that changed your perception of Mr. Jackson from a public relations standpoint?
Yes.
What was that?
The Martin Bashir documentary.
All right. How did the Martin Bashir documentary present itself as an issue for you from a public relations standpoint?
It's an absolute disaster.
Why do you say that?
I felt that the documentary was put together in a way that portrayed Mr. Jackson in an extremely negative light.
Were there particular issues with the documentary that you believed presented problems for Mr. Jackson from a PR point of view?
Yes, there were.
Objection, foundation, relevance 352.
Overruled, you may answer.
What were those issues?
I believe that Mr. Jackson was portrayed in a very negative light in his actions as far as the shopping spree, as far as climbing the tree, the statements made portraying himself as Peter Pan, and the interaction that he had with the person that was on the video.
The young boy?
Yes.
Have you ever been asked to characterize or measure this crisis on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes, I have.
How did you characterize it?
A 25.
That's some explosive stuff. A few minutes later, Anne-Marie Kite told that same jury that the Bashir documentary wasn't Jackson's only problem.
Were there any other goals other than attacking the current media problem?
Yes, my goal was to begin an immediate rehabilitation on his image.
So how did you plan to go about these goals?
Well, I needed to address, first of all, the negative items that were coming out in the press. And then once that was taken care of, I wanted to begin to do the rehabilitation on his image.
So these problems became your problems?
Absolutely. I felt it was my position to address anything that affected Mr. Jackson negatively.
So what was coming out in the media at this point?
There were documents that were released on a website, thesmokinggun.com, that in conjunction with the Bashir documentary, I felt it was just absolutely beyond a disaster for Mr. Jackson.
And I'm not asking you specifically what was written in those documents. I'm just asking in general terms, what was that document about?
It addressed another PR issue that Mr. Jackson had in 1993.
What was that PR issue?
They involved Mr. Jackson having inappropriate actions with a young boy.
Okay, the 93 case.
Yes.
That, folks, was the first mention of that 1993 molestation case in the testimony, although it was mentioned and referred to during the jury selection process. Joining me now, our team of legal experts, Sean Chapman Holly, managing partner of the Johnny Cochran Law Firm, and most recently having represented SLA member Sarah Jane Olson, Ricky Kleeman, author and Today's Show and Corey TV analyst, and of course, Howard Weitzman, veteran trial attorney and voted one of this country's most influential attorneys. Thank you all for coming out today. I don't know who wants to start this. I'm still reeling, frankly, from the idea that we have a PR person on the stand in the first place. Howard, I know you're chomping at the bit.
Well, not only do I not think it's relevant, what her opinion is of what the Bashir documentary involves, it just goes back to what I said before. This is a trial, I believe, that's already out of control. The documentary shouldn't have come in. This witness's testimony shouldn't have come in.
You agree, Ricky?
No. Let's go back to the whole idea that there is a conspiracy count here. And I said I was going to defend Judge Melvin, and I'm going to defend him now.
Have at it.
There's a conspiracy count, and it has to do with the conspiracy to falsely imprison the mother and her son. And really, the reason for calling Anne-Marie Kite is simple. She is there to set the stage that during her 6 days of employment, they wanted that boy and that mother at Neverland.
But what's important here is the they is not Michael Jackson. It's his handlers.
Yes,
they're the ones
right.
keeping the family and the boy. They're
and
Michael
that's
Jackson.
important. That comes out in this testimony, doesn't it, Ricky? That this woman in particular in her 6 days of employment, as Mesereau continues to beat on, didn't have any direct contact with Michael Jackson
well,
himself.
And Mesereau gets a point about that, and ultimately Mesereau may prevail. He may be able to knock out this count, because if it doesn't get tied back to Michael Jackson, all this testimony in essence not only is irrelevant, as Howard would say, it has to be stricken. But you got to believe that somewhere along the line that the prosecution is going to tie it back in.
And we're going to see if they can do it.
The horse is out of the barn.
Exactly.
Here.
The jury's
That's
heard it.
the problem.
Yeah.
The jury's heard it. I'm not understanding why a motion in limine wasn't made, and if it was, it should have been granted to make sure the 1993 incident was not referenced.
And Sean, you agree?
Absolutely.
All right, let's hold it right there. We're going to move on to the next portion of the testimony. Prosecutors claim the Jackson camp was desperate to get some good press and started shopping around their own documentary. According to the courtroom transcripts, here's what happened.
Was there a film that was being prepared to help address the PR issues?
Yes, there was.
Was there a member of the team that was preparing this film?
Yes.
Who was that?
Mr. Schaffel.
Do you know what the subject matter of the film was?
It was to be a rebuttal to Martin Bashir's documentary.
Did you have any discussions with the team concerning what network or what broadcast medium would be used to show this film?
Yes, I did.
Do you know whether it was ultimately aired?
Yes, it was.
On which network?
Fox.
Do you know why Fox was chosen?
Yes, I do.
Why is that?
Because they would give Mr. Schaffel an element of creative control.
Were there any other networks that were bidding for it?
Yes, there was.
Who?
NBC.
NBC, Fox, all the networks come out. How does that play, and what difference does it make? Okay, Howard, I see you just want to get in there. Go ahead.
Your objection sustained. What difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference. It's not relevant. It shouldn't have come in. It's only in for one reason. Sneddon and the DA's office is using it.
Yeah, but you can
to
say that, but
prejudice the
now,
jury.
Sean, it's in. It's in.
It is in, and the jury's hearing it, but the question is, what significance are they going to attach to it? It has nothing to do with anything.
Well, it has something to do with something, doesn't it, Ricky?
Well, certainly it does, because ultimately what they want to do is they do want to rehabilitate his image.
And so
what Sneddon is saying, though, is they want to rehabilitate his image, and in the process he has access to this child, and allegedly that's when the acts of molestation
Well, I understand
occur.
that, but Ricky, okay, break this down for me like I was, a 6-year-old, because I hate to agree with the defense attorney extraordinaire Howard Weitzman, but on this point I have to give he and Sean a little bit of ground. No, it's not. I'm not going to sleep well tonight. The idea that a PR push has something to do with responsibility for a criminal act. Just tie those together for me in real plain
The only
language.
reason that a PR push has anything to do with this particular indictment is the fact that you're dealing with a conspiracy count, you're dealing with a false imprisonment count, and you're dealing with access to this child.
Okay.
Though I have to add one thing where I have to agree with my colleagues about what is this doing in evidence.
Yeah.
We just mentioned Mark Schaffel. And eventually, in the testimony of Anne Marie Kite, she gets to say that Mark Schaffel was a quote-unquote gay porn producer.
Yes.
And another person, Al Melnick, was reputed to be a known mobster in Miami. Now, the jurors, we are told, start writing furiously at this point. And there I got to agree. What is that
What's
doing in
it
evidence?
doing in here in the idea that apparently this woman is testifying about things that others, namely Schaffel and the person who hired her, another individual, an attorney from Las Vegas, told her? Up next, hard-hitting testimony about Jackson's advisors holding the family hostage at the Neverland Ranch. Stay with us.
Tonight's reenactments and commentary may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Were the accuser and his family held captive at Neverland Ranch, then bullied into making a rebuttal video? Former Jackson employee Anne Marie Kite tells jurors that panic literally ensued when the boy and his family bolted from the ranch. Here's how she responded to the prosecution's questions, according to the courtroom transcripts.
All right, during your work for Mr. Jackson, at some point did you become aware of a problem involving the family?
Yes, I did.
How did you become aware of that problem?
Mr. Schaffel called me.
Do you remember the approximate date or the date that the call took place?
Yes, it was the 13th of February.
And what did Mr. Schaffel tell you?
He told me that Janet had taken the kids and left the ranch either late at night or early in the morning.
Did you express any concern to him?
Objection, leading.
At that time?
You may answer.
Well, I didn't understand what it was that he was trying to say to me. I mean, I knew what he said, but I wasn't understanding where he was going with it.
Was Mr. Schaffel, what was his demeanor when he was telling you this?
He was extremely agitated.
Did you understand what was the source of his agitation?
Yes, that Janet had taken the kids and left the ranch.
Sometime later, did you receive another phone call or have another phone conversation with Mr. Schaffel concerning this subject?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
It was later that day.
And what was said?
Objection, hearsay.
Offered in furtherance of the conspiracy.
All right, the objection's overruled.
He said that the situation had been contained.
Did that concern you?
Yes, it did.
Okay, why?
Because I believed that if somebody had taken their children and left the ranch, there must be some type of problem. And the way that he answered me by saying the situation was contained made me very uncomfortable.
And the fact that she's uncomfortable means what exactly? This panel wants to chime in. Then prosecutors contended that the Jackson camp went into overdrive trying to get the family back on the ranch.
Did he make any further statements to you about the family?
Yes, he said that they had been brought back to the ranch.
Did this conversation concern you?
Yes, it did.
Why?
Because I didn't understand why he would be so upset about them leaving the ranch and then telling me the situation had been contained and that they had been brought back to the ranch all within a span of approximately 12 hours or so.
Did you have any conversations with other members of the team regarding this issue?
Yes, I did.
Who else?
David Legrand.
When did that conversation take place?
It was later that same day, on the 13th.
Did you call him or did he call you?
I called him.
And what did you ask him?
I said, did I hear right what Mark Schaffel said to me, that Janet left the ranch? And I said, don't make me believe.
Objection, non-responsive.
Overruled.
I said, don't make me believe that these people were hunted down like dogs and brought back to the ranch.
Okay, I'm going to strike that answer in response to the non-responsive objection. The jury's to disregard the answer.
One for the defense team. What do you make of it?
Okay, that's crazy. This is crazy. She gets to say, don't make me believe these people were hunted down like dogs. The judge sustains the objection, says it's non-responsive, and, so, but big deal. The jury's already heard it. They've heard that, and that
I'm getting
so
pushed over to the side of the defense.
prejudicial.
Howard, what's going to happen?
You're trying to be fair, James.
All right. I'm trying to be fair.
Bolted? They bolted from the ranch? Let me see if I get that straight. They get in the car and they drive out. How does all of this testimony come in?
Okay, but it's in now, Ricky Kleeman. It's in.
And it's a real problem at this point because we do have this image that has been now stricken from the record. They were hunted down like dogs brought back to the ranch. It's the headline on the news. It's the headline in the press. And the jury is like saying, don't think about pink elephants. Well, of course, all you see are pink elephants. This is really problematic, and it's going to get worse, I think, because Mr. Mesereau can now see that even when he wins, he might lose.
Now, the idea, though, Sean, with respect to aftermath, and the aftermath of a trial specifically, is it too early for Tom Mesereau to think, okay, I may go down on this, but I've got to win on appeal?
Oh,
well, no, I don't think he thinks that. No. And, as long as the judge makes a good record, then, there's not necessarily an appellate issue. I don't think that's what Mr. Mesereau is thinking at all. But, let me just say this. What I think is interesting is that it seems that this woman is dying to say this. Okay. She's dying to say this, don't make me believe. That shows her bias. She's biased.
Oh, talk about bias. What about this little tidbit that we found out earlier on? She had a relationship, a romantic relationship apparently, with the individual who hired her, one of the attorneys. How does that play?
Wait. Before we get to the bias, just remember, whatever she says, the district attorney's office knows what's coming.
Yeah.
They invited that answer for one reason only.
Which was, spell it out.
To bias the jury, to prejudice the jury.
Okay, now let's be fair, though.
Wait. Mr. Mesereau winds up, I think, having a good day with this witness.
How?
All of this stuff is coming in, and then Mr. Mesereau sits back. He gets up for his cross-examination, and he painstakingly eviscerates the witness by talking about her affair, by going through the fact that she was a 6-day PR wonder and was discharged. And I think that what he is showing is that all of this talk that has come in has no tie to the defendant, Michael Jackson.
Will that evisceration, as you so eloquently put it, I can't even use those kind of words, will it really balance out what others think, especially you two, think is really a dagger in the heart of this defense team? The prosecution continued with its conspiracy theory, insisting that Jackson and his associates planned a smear campaign to discredit the accuser's mother.
After your termination, Ms. Kite, did you have a conversation with David LeGrand about Janet?
Yes, I did.
All right, when did this conversation take place?
Approximately a week to 10 days after I was terminated.
Were you in a room with him? Telephone, you tell me.
We were on the telephone.
And did he convey some information to you about Janet?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
Objection. Hearsay, foundation, relevance.
Offered in furtherance of the conspiracy.
The objection is overruled.
He said that they no longer had to worry about Janet because they had her on tape and they were going to make her look like a crack whore.
Okay, I don't think I need to say anything about that, folks. Come on. Howard, Ricky, help me. That comes in just like it's okay?
No, it doesn't come in. I don't mean to sound like a broken record here.
Yes, you do.
But the judge, in my opinion, has lost control or is allowing things to happen that I don't think are fair.
I mean, we're talking about, and Ricky, I have to have you explain this to me again, because conspiracy is one of those charges that we don't hear a lot about. We've got this hearsay rule, which essentially means, look, things that other people say that aren't on this witness stand don't get to come in front of this jury. But we have a statement, one of the most inflammatory statements in this entire trial, although it's early yet. We're going to make her look like and I'm not even going to use the term again. How does that allow?
Well, the judge overrules the objections because he says all of these statements are made in furtherance of the conspiracy. Now, reasonable people could differ if this statement is made in further of the conspiracy, since it's being made to the PR person.
Yeah.
It's not like Michael Jackson's associates are getting together and saying, okay, bubble, bubble, toil and trouble, what can we do here to ruin the reputation of this mother? Nonetheless, I think that if you're a lawyer as good as Tom Mesereau, the more this stuff starts spilling over you, and you see the writings on the wall that this stuff is coming in, you can eventually swim to the top and watch.
Now, Sean Chapman-Holly, is that sort of the... Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, if the conspiracy is to falsely imprison these people, what does this statement have anything to do with that?
Sure, I understand.
How is it admitted in furtherance of this conspiracy?
That makes sense, but is it the idea of the old analogy about, as opposed to pushing head on against this kind of information, this testimony, like Rick said, it's in, you go with it and try to turn it to your advantage.
Well, you have to. You have no choice at that point.
He does keep objecting. I mean, it's not like he's just sitting
We've got to
there
do that for
quietly.
the record. We're going to continue this analysis. Boy, it gets curiouser and curiouser, doesn't it? Later, defense witness Anne Marie Kite undergoes an intense cross-examination.
Tonight's reenactments and commentary may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Throughout cross-examination, defense attorney Tom Mesereau continued the defense offensive by attacking former Jackson employee Anne Marie Kite's credibility. According to the transcripts, here's what took place.
All right. Had you represented any celebrities before?
Yes, I have.
Who had you represented?
Well, I'm sure you wouldn't consider him a celebrity, but he considers himself one. Would be Mr. Silver, Marshall Silver, who lives in Las Vegas.
Who is he?
He's an entertainer. He also has done a lot of commercials, infomercials, and he did, television. He was very much into self-hypnosis and things like that.
Okay. Any other celebrities?
I have interviewed celebrities, yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The question was...
No, sir.
The question was, did you represent any other celebrities?
No, sir. Not in the way that I did Mr. Silver.
Really? I think what you're saying, he was the only celebrity that you actually represented as a PR spokesperson.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Before you joined this team?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Now, you said you were an expert at media crisis management, right?
Are you asking me what I believe?
Well, I'm asking you what you said.
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
Didn't you tell the jury you were an expert on media crisis management at this point in time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you do media crisis management for Mr. Silver?
Yes, I did.
So actually, you had only done media crisis management for one person you consider a celebrity before you joined this team?
For one person that I would consider a celebrity, yes, sir.
So can you do media crisis management for somebody who's not in the media? How does that work, folks?
Right. She's holding herself out as some kind of expert, and Mr. Mesereau artfully demonstrates she's no expert. Come on, one guy, Silver. Who is this guy?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Silver.
And Michael Jackson really didn't know anything about this woman.
That's
this
the key.
was Attorney LeGrand from Las Vegas. This
with whom
this was his
woman had a
honey.
relationship.
He brought her
with.
in. She's there for a week, and she was just so anxious to go to the police, to go to the sheriff, to go to Sneddon. That's the whole attack, according to
Now,
Mesereau.
what about the timing? We only got a few seconds left here. Let's deal with the
attempt by Sneddon to put somebody on again.
All right. Let's hold that thought. Let me get to 2 quick points before we have to leave today. The timing. All of these incidents with respect to the molestation and the Bashir video, the video and all this other conduct as the crux of the conspiracy apparently happens before the molestation.
Yes, which does make the molestation a little bit peculiar. You mean I slept on the floor on Michael Jackson before the video.
Yeah.
I think the video is a problem, so now I'll hop into bed?
All right, quick roundtable. Sean, who's winning now?
Mr. Mesereau.
All right, Ricky?
I call it a draw at this point.
Well, I think the prosecution has the advantage. You know, the judge admonished Mr. Mesereau in front of the jury.
We'll talk about that on the wrap-up show
Really
for Saturday. Yeah, that's the thing. And let's just go ahead and explore that for a little bit right now. In front of the jury, he says, essentially, wrap this up. The jury's tired of hearing you.
It showed Mr. Mesereau was making points, and this judge wanted to interrupt his flow and let the jury think that he, the judge, doesn't believe Mr. Mesereau is doing his well.
Now, that's a little bit of an editorial.
He cleaned it up
Of course it is an editorial.
Well, it's a little bit of an editorial with respect to what the judge's intent was. But, Sean, that usually does happen when the attorney gets called to the bench and the judge goes, look, wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't matter what the judge's intent was. What matters is the effect it's having on the jury.
Right.
The jury sees Mesereau getting lambasted by, the judge, the guy.
And we know that judges give cues to juries even when they don't intend to do it. Well, unfortunately, that's it for today. Be sure to watch our exclusive Michael Jackson trial coverage every day, 7:30 and 9 p.m. right here